أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم Assalamu alaikum. The Allah's name, the merciful benefactor, the merciful redeemer. Praise belongs to Allah, the cherisher and sustainer of the worlds. The merciful benefactor, the merciful redeemer, the master of the day of judgment. It is thee we worship, and your aid we seek. Show us the straight way, the way of those whom thou hast bestowed thy grace, those whose portion is not wrath, nor those who go astray. Amen. With God's name today, we want to comment on a subject that we are familiar with that we may not give attention to. It's the subject of meditation. Meditation, to meditate. I relate this meditate to the idea of dhikr, remembrance, constant remembrance. So this meditate in the Arabic, the roots bayata means to meditate. And in the Quran, in chapter 4, or Surah 4, starting at verse 81, ayat 81, it talks about, the translator talks about meditate. I'll read the English. It says, I seek refuge with Allah from Satan the accursed. It says, they have obedience on their lips, but when they leave thee, a section of them meditate all night on things very different from what thou tellest them. And Allah records their nightly plots, so keep clear of them and put thy trust in Allah, and enough is Allah as a disposer of affairs. So the term we're picking out of this is meditate. I mean, when you do your dhikr, or when you concentrate intensely on a subject in the wee hour of the morning, that may be considered meditation for you. For me, if I'm doing the dhikrs on my fingers, Subhanallah, Alhamdulillah, Allahu Akbar, that's officially and technically called dhikr. But it's a remembrance, it's a reminder. It's focusing on those attributes. It can be like the sister or the brother or the cousin of meditation. This particular ayah is talking about the hypocrites, those who say they have obedience on their lips, but they focus on things other than obedience during the quiet hour of the morning. They're described here. And Allah also reveals that He hears their plots, but they don't believe it. And we believe that Allah hears our prayers. And if He hears your prayer, then He can hear other things. We say, Sami Allahu liman hamida, Allah hears those who praises Him. But they may not believe that. So during the most beneficial time of the day, when everything is quiet, and you can give your attention to it, they're focusing on things other than this, or other than that which is good. They're scheming and planning and plotting and all of that to entrap mainly the believer. You're not so much focused on capturing the person who's not on the path, because they figure they already got them. They want to get the ones that are on the path. And they do it all night long, thinking on things different from what Allah tells them to think And they're in the Quran, since we're told that the Quran is the best to explain itself, you can find references in the Quran pertaining to this same root. If you follow those references, all of the references, as many as you can, and try to understand as much of it as you can get a good understanding of what Allah is saying regarding meditation, who meditates, under what conditions, what you get out of it, yada, yada, yada. On and on and on. That's why I recommend that for anyone, get a concordance, a good concordance that would at least tell you all the places where a word is used in the Quran. And even if you're just reading the English, right? If you can follow that word in English throughout the Quran, under all the different contexts that it's in, right? Because each one of them is in a context. There's something surrounding it. It's not just there by itself. You can get a good understanding of what Allah is saying before you even go outside of the Quran. And also in this same surah, Al-Nisa, in the 108th ayah, we're told in the Quran by Allah, because Allah is the author of the Quran, the only speaker in the Quran. Now, mind you, just in case we don't remember that, Allah is the only speaker in the Quran. But He's so skilled that He sets up what looks like a conversation between Him and others. And we think that others are talking to Allah in the Quran. But He sets it up in the form of a parable, like a conversation with Him, right? So we want to just remember that Allah is the sole speaker in the Quran. But this particular ayah in Surah An-Nisa 108, it says, they may hide their crowns from men, but they cannot hide them from Allah, seeing that He is with them when they plot by night in words that He cannot approve. And Allah doeth compass round about all that they do. Now, in this particular ayah, that root is a plot. It's a plot. So, but they're doing it at night, right? And we're talking about that one that's considered hypocritical. One that's considered a hypocrite. We're not talking about somebody who's honestly, earnestly searching. We're talking about the hypocrite. They hide their crimes from men, so men don't know what they're doing. But Allah knows. They cannot hide them from Allah. But He seeing that He is with them when they make their plots. So, in other words, we want to know that Allah sees everything and Allah hears everything. And as a reminder, we say in our prayer, right? We say in our prayers that Allah knows best, and we say that we make no distinction. You know, the believers say these things. We make no distinction. We say Allah knows best. We say we hear, we obey. That we're still growing to its fullness, because sometimes we hear, we don't really fully obey. We are obeying up to the understanding that we have, but we're growing in that. We're growing in submitting more with our understanding. So these areas of the Quran, highlighting meditation and what it means and how it's being described, they plot by night in words He cannot approve of. hypocrites. Right? And there was a situation during the life of the prophet where some of the enemies made a secret night attack on him and his people. Hypocrites, though. There is a story of a family of 9, a clan, who hatched a plot at night to take the prophet out. And their thing was, if anybody asked them, they was going to say, well, we don't know nothing about this. If they was to be successful, they was going to make the excuse that we don't know anything about it, we didn't do it. And that was supposed to be covering all 9 of them because they didn't know who to actually put the blame on. That was the situation during the life of the prophet. The point in that is that it was meditated at night during the wee hours of the night. And Allah exposed that as well. Okay? So we have something that's saying you can't get away. There's no way to hide. Nowhere to hide today. When we come to what's considered the one of the offshoots of the word, tadabbara, it means to ponder. It also means to meditate, to consider. If you notice now, I didn't say dhikr, because that's another one. That's pretty much the same meanings. But this one, tadabbara, to ponder, to meditate upon, to consider. And Allah is asking the question, do they not consider the Quran with care? Because they know it, or they've been exposed to it, but they're not considering it with care. It's just like they're hearing it, but they're like brushing it off. He says, أَفَلَا يَتَتَبَّرُونَ الْقُرْآنَ. Do they not consider the Quran with care? And that's in Surah Nisa right here as well. They have the wrong attitude. They have weak faith. They doubt. They don't think the Quran is from Allah, the creator of the heavens and the earth. They don't think that. They think this is something that Muhammad came up with. I mean, it's a lot to this. So if you think that he came up with this back then, when thing was as raw as it was, and this is educating us today, more than 1,400 years later, not only is it educating us, this was what brought about the Renaissance in Europe. This body of knowledge, it's very powerful. We underestimate it, in other words. The hypocrites for sure they underestimate it. The next question is asked, sounds like the same thing, but it says, do they not ponder over the word? أَفَلَا يَتَدَبَّرُونَ الْقَوْلَ. Do they not ponder over the word? The Quran is not a language that's incomprehensible. It's very comprehensible. It's very comprehending. From the highest to the lowest. The educated, from the most educated to the least educated. So there's no excuse if somebody's saying, well, we don't understand that. It's just too high, too advanced for us. That's not the case, because Allah can speak to you just like He can speak to the next one. He can speak to all of us on our level with one message, with one ayah, one verse. Whether you accept it or not is a different ballgame, right? But the Quran is not a language that's incomprehensible. And you know, even though language change over time, this one changes with time as well. The people before us, when they read the Quran, they had in their mind what it meant, and they did things with it. Today, we have in our minds what it means. What are we going to do? One thing, I was listening to a scholar, and he was talking about unity, how these people were unified more when they didn't have this message. They were unified more when they didn't have this message. They were unified in their language, they were unified in their approach to things, they were unified in their goals. Now that they have this message, why aren't they more unified? That's what some people are questioning. Right? And it's a valid question. If you think about it, you may not have been a part of the Nation of Islam, even though you didn't have this. They had unity. They had unity in their language. Everybody in there was saying that the white man is the devil. That was one unified message. All of them, everybody was saying that. Right? And everybody was working for the community, for the nation, as they called it. You know, nobody was working for their own pockets. I mean, sure, they had their own jobs, but in terms of collective efforts, they was working to build a nation. So they were unified, even though we didn't have this. Right? Everybody was unified with the diet. You couldn't tell a person about eating a pork. Everybody knew about that. That was like taboo. But the question is, so now that we have this clear message, this powerful message, why don't we have this kind of unity now? Well, Allah knows best. That's all I can say. But I do know that if we get on the same message, even if it was Kul Hu Allahu Ahad, if we all get on that same level and we say it as vehemently as they said things, or maybe even more vehemently, that's unity. And the results come when everybody's on the same page. When everybody's on the same page, that's when you see results. If I'm the only one on that page, you won't see much. If you're the only one on that page, you won't see much. If just the two of us on that page, you won't see much. But if all of us, what is it, close to 2.5 billion Muslims on the earth, you know, during the month of Ramadan, we're unified. We hear it and say it there, then. But after that, people go back to their, preoccupations, selling you alcohol and ham and cheese, and tobacco of all kinds, and hookahs and all this stuff. And it's just put on the back shelf. After Ramadan, go back to the normal stuff. So I thought that was interesting when we think about unity, and you make these comparisons where you've come from. Oh, and another thing we got to mention before we move on, that we were unified. There was a unity in the language that we took to the streets about images. Making no images. The first or the second commandment, thou shalt make no images, thou shalt make no graven images. I don't even remember the Ten Commandments, but you know what I'm saying. That you shouldn't have the images. And we were unified in that because we took it to the streets. We took it to groups, took it to our families. We had dialogue with groups, what do you call it, street member, street teachings. And a lot of people accepted it. And a lot of people dropped the image. But it looks like some of them might be picking it back up for some reason. Maybe picking the image back up because, you kind of hear today that people are regurgitating this idea of the image. We're discussing this morning why we don't have images in Islam. This is one of the reasons why. That first message, Kul huwallahu ahad, say he is one. You can't do the same thing that the people in the book did. Put that one in an image that looks like a particular people. You don't want to do that. So I'm just relating that idea of unity then compared to now, and where we are, where we came from, and why or what we have to do to get unity. Now, back to this meditation before we conclude. That in Surah 38, in Surah 38, verse ayat 29, we talked about meditation. Okay? Here is a book which we have sent down unto thee, full of blessings, that they may meditate on its signs, and that men of understanding may receive admonition. A book sent down unto thee, full of blessings. The simple mind would say, hold it now, that book ain't full of nothing, there's just some pages in there. That's the simple mind for sure. But we know what Allah is saying, that they may meditate on its signs. Well, what are the signs? They're all around us. We're taught that everything you see, everything, bar none, everything that you see has a knowledge body. There is nothing that you can say you have seen that doesn't have a knowledge body. Nothing. And we was relating how the world has given us the periodic chart with the elements that are in the earth. Iron, gold, silver, uranium, molybdenum, all of those. I think they're roughly about 112, 15, somewhere around there. So I tell the younger ones that everything has a knowledge body associated with it. So if you think about that, you might be able to disprove the fact that that's it. Somebody tell you that's it, you might be able to find something that's not in the chart. If you focus on it, if you understand that everything has a knowledge body, and everything is under a law, everything submits to a law. So there are laws that we don't even know about. Everything, this has a law to it. It's under a law. Right? It's plastic or whatever, but there's a knowledge associated with making these. And there are laws associated with it. So everything, bar none, has a knowledge body. And if we can get the younger one to see that, who knows? They may discover something that's not in the periodic chart that's been given to the world, saying that this is it. Allah knows best. But why not cultivate that mind to let that mind know that Allah didn't say that was the end. I mean, that was it. Whoever gave it to you said that was it. If you stop right there, then you stop at his thinking. The Quran is the blessed book. It is highly useful for man. It gives the best guidance. It gives the best guidance to improve and reform our lives. Better than at the universities. So this is worth meditating on. It's worth contemplating. It's worth thinking on. It's worth pondering. Now we know there's a lot to distract us. We know that. You know, I was relating to a person that in the story of creation, when Allah showed the creation to Jibril thought it was such a wonderful creation. He said, well, how can anybody go wrong in such a wonderful creation? But then within an instant, you know, so quick, Allah changed it and let Jibril look at it then. Jibril said, well, how can anybody go right in such messed up world? You know, he didn't use that term, but that's what I'm saying. And it has been said that the messed up part is what we are in now, right? And the mess up is his decoration on top of creation. That which allures you, that which invites you, that which entices you. On top of Allah's natural creation. That's his decorations. So we want to know, and most Muslims are or trying to be natural people. But that's not the case for everybody. The things that they see, the fascinations, the allurements, the excitements, getting into Hollywood, making it big, that's something on Allah's creation. And it's alluring people in to like a nice shiny red apple, but as soon as you bite into it, worms in there. What an awful thing to do, right? So, all of this was said that when we think about these things, when we ponder over these things, when we meditate, there are groups that meditate on the Quran. And we can do it too. We can ponder on it. We can dhikr. We can do it in a group. Just like when you had the book club, there are blessings that we get collectively and there are blessings that we get individually. Just by discussing the book club. Now, just think, if on another day we all got together and if we read the Quran, you read an ayat, you read an ayat, you read an ayat, you read an ayat, I read an ayat. English, and for those who can, Arabic too. Or maybe we take the whole group and grow to that. The group gets a blessing and the individual gets a blessing. This is what Allah has available to us. So with that, we just wanted to talk briefly about meditation and show how we don't have to stop with the term dhikr. You know, if that's limited to you, remember that all of these terms, they have sub-terms. And the sub-terms, if I can relate it to like synonyms, you know, different words, pretty much the same meaning, synonyms. So for those of you who are in school, you might want to go back and review synonyms, antonyms, homonyms, right? Because they're useful for you. You can see from more than one perspective. So that means you don't have to get into a debate about somebody because he's not using the word that you're comfortable with. You know, he's using a good word, but if you're not comfortable with it, first thing you put on defense. Oh, that ain't right, man. That's not how it is supposed to be. You know, you can't prove that. Oh. You don't have to get into that because all that does is saps your energy. So we ask Allah to forgive us for anything we said that may have infringed wrongfully upon His message, and for anything that we have said that was wrong was our fault. Anything that we may have said that was worthwhile was from Allah. We ask Allah's peace and His blessings upon Muhammad and the followers of Muhammad. Assalamu alaikum. And if there may be any comments or questions, I'd I have, have to answer. I will try to answer. Yes, sir.
Did you have anything you want to put on the board?
Well, I guess I could put meditate on the board, right? Yeah. This was the that, yeah, tap, tap. Was the word for meditate. So if you look up that, yeah, tap, tap. That's how it is, and it's like I said, there's so many subcategories of this. You can see how Allah is using it in the Quran in more than one place. That's why that's what will verify that the Quran is the best teacher, by going throughout all the places it's mentioned in the Quran and trying to understand it. That's the word, and it is to meditate for one. I said I relate meditate to dhikr personally. Okay. And the other one is, well, I'll just give you some references just in case you want to go there. This was Surah Nisa, 1, and Nisa 108. Okay. And the other word Tadabbara. It's tadabbara. أفلا يتدبرون. Do they not consider the Quran?
Say again?
Do they not consider the Quran? Is what he's saying. Asking the question.
So tabara, is that the consider? Is that the word they translated it for?
Consider.
So the first word, bayata, is that related to bait or bayan?
It may be. It may be. Again, all the sub-entries, I stopped at 1 or 2 or 3 pertaining to meditation. And
I have to look it up and see. We know in the book club this week we were just talking is the Bayat al Ridwan, the pledge or the oath of allegiance.
Yes.
So oath, and then Bayat means a house, Bayat like a house or a door. So I wonder how that related to media. If those are the same words, so, they could sound similar. And have
That's right.
meanings.
That's right. It may be. I never looked at it from that perspective. Well, these were the two for meditate, ponder, reflect, consider, right? Think about, because we're just used to knowing or hearing dhikr.
Right.
And this, when you go into the Arabic, you're going to see a lot of subcategories that means have the same meaning.
I thought this was important because when we think of when I hear meditate, the first thing I think of, and the only thing I think of, is the prophet in the cave.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't think about what happened after that. He went to the cave to meditate, but that's still something that we should do, trying to implement. And that dhikr is that what he was doing was going in the cave to kind of ponder the solutions of the world.
Absolutely.
So our dhikr could be, it's not just remembering Allah, but remember what Allah wants for us to do. So, definitely.
So, question? Comment?
That word T, I couldn't.
TAD
TAD.
ABBARA. Tadabbara. Tadabbara. Tadabbara.
Yeah, that pen, that green is just,
It's kind of weak, huh?
yeah, they look at some black ones.
Yeah. In fact, I think I have one here. I thought this was okay. But those are some of the things that we, you know, when you start studying, and believe me, I am so not deep in Arabic that this is new to me. You know, even though I might devote some time to studying Arabic, there is just so much. You know, and I'm convinced the more I go into it, that you've heard this expression: the more you think you know, the more you really don't know.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I am with this. So, thank you for the question.
Alhamdulillah, I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Appreciate your presentation.